Welcoming into now on Salem News Channel, Edward Bartlett, founder of Save. Thank you so much, Edward, for coming on today.
My pleasure, Stacy.
So, first, tell us about your organization. What is Save and what do you do there?
Sure. SAVES is an acronym for Stop Abusive and Violent Environments. SaveServices.org, SaveServices.org. And our main focus is the federal Title IX law that originally was designed to end sex discrimination in schools, but has now been weaponized and politicized.
Perfect. Okay, so then that leads us to our topic. Perfect segue into the national outrage over Biden's Title IX plans. This is a severe intervention by the government into what happens in schools across the country. Tell us what's going on here.
Yeah, so, as I said, Title IX originally was about stopping sex discrimination. But what happens when you change the basic definition of sex? Well, now that's not a hypothetical question. The Biden administration now wants to change that definition to include gender identity. And when you start to think about it, everything begins to go wrong, starting with women's sports, going to gender transitioning by underage kids, uh, pronoun mandates, due process on college campuses, parental rights, um, and probably two or three other issues that I didn't mention. But it's really a far-reaching and really a devastating idea that you can change the definition of sex.
Yeah, it is, and it's not scientific. And so the insult that's often leveled at people on the political right or anyone who's not a leftist activist is that we don't believe in science. We have our sky daddy, and we believe in a fake being that impacts our lives. And there's so many nice, like made up insults that they're able to use, and they all know them. They all know the insults by heart, and so they're ready with them. Anytime you talk about anything having to do with faith or belief in our country, that's now become politicized as something that only Christians, if you believe that you have God-given rights and that our country's constitution protects that, then you're a Christian nationalist and you don't believe in science. But the most unscientific thing I've ever heard, besides the fact that plants don't need CO2 to survive, the people who hate CO2, which is actually what plants need to survive, the other unscientific thing that the left likes to promote is this that there are more than two genders, that we don't live in a binary world, that you don't go down to the genetic level, to the DNA level to find out if you find bones from 4 or 5 thousand years ago that you can determine the sex of the bones by going down to the. It's just, and these are things we learned in science. I'm not a biologist or a scientist, but I remember those lessons very clearly because they made sense of my world. If I'm a woman, if I'm a girl all the way down to my cells. And no matter what time in the future, 20,000 years from now, if someone finds my remains, even one little bone out of my body, they can say, well, this was a woman, right? They don't need any of my clothing or an identification card to figure that out. So I don't know. It's just kind of crazy to hear them take this stand.
Well, this truly is an assault on the truth. It truly is an assault on fundamental biology. And where did this insanity come from? Well, it actually came from our good friend Karl Marx. Karl Marx was not only concerned about eliminating differences of economic class or differences of social ranking, he wanted to eliminate all social differences, including differences of the sexes. So, literally, what better way to eliminate those definitions or distinctions of sex than to simply decree there are 52 different genders and take your choice. You can be any gender you want anytime you want to.
Yeah, and the other part about that that's really annoying is how you're supposed to live with that in your everyday world, right? If let's say this is going on, in fact, we know it's going on in police departments. Some police departments have adopted a stance that their officers can change their gender at will. So it's really difficult for their coworkers, obviously, right? But it's really difficult for people that they might be pulling over. Let's say the person who pulls you over has the appearance of a man, but that day they've declared they're a woman. They expect you to use the woman pronouns, but you're just literally getting thrown into this situation because your tail light is out or you're speeding. You get pulled over and you say, "Yes, sir," trying to be respectful, maybe hoping to get out of a ticket, and instead you've misgendered this person and now you've got that to deal with. A person in authority over you who's carrying a weapon who is obviously mentally ill because they don't know what gender they are that day. That's how crazy this is getting.
Well, since we're talking about the insanity of this whole idea, let's talk about women's sports, and let's talk about biological males competing in women's athletics. And it's not only crazy, just the idea is not only crazy, it actually has physical impacts on women. And for example, just recently, USA Boxing decreed that hereafter biological males who call themselves transgender could compete in female boxing events. Well, this is so insane that Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado said this is pathetic and disgusting. So, yeah, it is pathetic and disgusting.
It is, and I think the point that Lauren Boebert is making, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, she's probably a prime example of how this disparity can be very damaging because she's very petite and not large in her frame. Like she's not a very muscular person. And if she were in boxing and able to go up against another woman, the match would be equal. Not that I'm not saying she would win. I'm not determining that at all, but the matchup between her and another female, she would have a chance at that. It would be about her determination, her physical fitness, her willingness to, be aggressive with it in that match. But if it's a man, the difference in muscle mass and size, bone structure, agility, and twitchy muscle reflexes, their ability to respond with speed and accuracy is so much greater on behalf of a man than it is to a woman. It's not even a contest. As a woman, I would not participate in a sport where I was forced to go up against a man. Tell us again, Edward, how do we get to your website and how do we support the work that you're doing?
Yeah, go to saveservices.org, saveservices.org. We actually have a page there how you can give testimony to the Federal Office of Management and Budget to basically explain why this truly is an insane idea. So go to
I,
saveservices.org.
I love it. You're also affiliated with the Federalist Society. You can find out more at the show notes at stacyontheright.com. Edward Bartlett, founder of Save, thank you for joining me today on Salem News Channel.